Hello, I'm State Representative Robert Sprague from the 76th House District. Welcome to Ohio in Focus.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Ohio in Focus, a program that brings state government to you. I'm your host, Mike Ditto. We have with us today State Representative Robert Sprague, who serves the 76th House District, which includes Hancock and Hardin counties, as well as portions of Auglaize County. Representative, thanks for coming back.
Thank you for having me.
So this is your second time on the show since being appointed last February. What's the first almost full year been like for you as a state legislator?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been a monster year. It absolutely has. I think by even historical standards, but certainly for a new legislature, you can imagine with all the public policy challenges that the state of Ohio has faced, it has been a big, big year. So I've learned quite a bit. I've enjoyed myself, and it's a great honor to be representing the 76th District.
So tell us a little bit, if you would, about sort of a refresher on the committees you serve on.
Sure. I serve on Criminal Justice, the Insurance Committee, and the State Government Committee, which I guess for the viewers or my constituents that don't know about the State Government Committee, it's kind of a catch-all. It handles a lot of the elections issues, a lot of the state liquor control laws, and things such as that. So,
now, one of the issues that you talked about, I think, when we did this program last was jobs and the economy has really been the main focus of your district, and I assume that that's probably still the case.
Well, when I was appointed in February, we were really at the very bottom of the recession. We'd lost 600,000 jobs as a state, and it was on everybody's mind, how do we get out of this economic rut that we're in? And so we've done a number of things in terms of legislation that we've passed to help with that, and I think we're on the right track. The first thing that happened was the governor suggested that we take out of the bureaucracy, which typically tends to be slow to respond. We take out of the bureaucracy some of the key development functions to be able to close some of these business deals for companies that are interested in moving to the state of Ohio or are interested in retaining their headquarters and their production facilities in the state of Ohio. So we created a separate entity called Jobs Ohio that was outside the bureaucracy. It's a public-private partnership. And then the other thing that we found was that we needed kind of CEO, CIO, CFO type involvement with those so that they could speak CEO to CEO and say, look, this is a great place to have your business. You need to come to the 76th District. You need to come to Hardin County, Hancock County to locate your facility here. And I've got great experience with my workforce and so on and so forth. And having that CEO to CEO contact is very advantageous. And so the Jobs Ohio Board is filled with CEOs and influential business leaders, and they are talking the language and able to accelerate that deal process. So that's one of the key components, kind of the linchpin of our economic development effort. If
there are job creators in your district that are watching this program, or if there are people who are job creators outside of your district, what would you tell them is the number one asset of the 76th House District?
Well, I think, it's you say number one, and I guess three come immediately to mind. There's not just one, and that's kind of the great thing about being a representative from the 76th District. Unlike maybe being a representative from a completely urban area or a completely rural area, I've got a mixture of both. We've got the fourth largest company in the state of Ohio that's headquartered in my district, Marathon Petroleum Corporation, as well as another Fortune 500 corporation, Cooper Tire and Rubber Company. So we definitely have the manufacturing industrial base and some corporate headquarters there, but also we tend to be very strong in the agricultural economy. And Hardin County, I think, is one of the very top producers of grain as well as livestock products in the state of Ohio. It's our number one industry, and we've made a number of pieces of public policy to make sure that agriculture is kind of retaining the number one spot in terms of our public policy as well as what it means to our state. And then I think the third thing really is we have an inherent logistics advantage because we have I-75 that comes, the I-75 corridor that comes up and down. And the funny thing is, and I'll just relate this story briefly, but Home Depot recently had put a distribution facility in my district, and they said that they kept going back over and over and looking at the reports, and they said, "Oh, this can't be right. Surely, it can't be right here." But if you take, the gas mileage and all the other things that they take into account in the population centers, it happens to be the 76 districts that is the exact right spot to put logistical facilities.
Perfect.
And so we've got an intermodal facility there that CSX has just added, and we've got to find ways to try to climb that value chain.
Now, your district has also faced another challenge over many years, even during your time as an elected official in the city of Findlay, dealing with the floods in your area.
Oh, yeah.
So what's the latest there?
Well, the latest is we're working hard. There's actually two tracks for flood mitigation. One is kind of a funding track, which is how you pay for the structure, but the other really is a design track, which is how are we going to engineer the devices that are going to mitigate flooding. And the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is developing a watershed-wide solution, which means that it's not going to impact people down the river or up the river. It's going to make sure that it doesn't just displace the water to create a problem for somebody else. And as the Army Corps goes through this process, they actually interface largely with state agencies, the Ohio EPA, the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, and the Ohio Historical Preservation Society to make the determination as to whether or not what the Army Corps designs is feasible. And so what I'm doing as state legislator is making sure that there's a relationship, a contact point between the state agencies, and they can facilitate quickly what the Army Corps is doing in terms of flood design. And then we're also working on the funding component and trying to find, obviously money is very, very tight at the state level. So that's a difficult nut to crack, but we continue to look hard and try to look at the bottom of the barrel in any of these places where we could try to obtain funding. So
sounds like you've been sort of a common link, bringing all the parties together on that. Have your constituents offered any advice or ideas on what they think would be best to mitigate this problem?
Well, there's been a number of public meetings, and I think that in general the public just wants the problem solved. And I don't know if there's obviously people. Yes, people continuously submit, ideas as to how they might mitigate the flooding, or what they might do, maybe a reservoir upstream or some sort of a detention facility downstream or whatever. The Army Corps really is going to have to come up with those ideas because they're the engineers and they've got the hydraulic models. But I can tell you that there is an intense interest still in my district, and it's been now 5 years. There's still an intense interest in the district to mitigate the flooding and solve that flooding problem. And I got to tell you, we live on the edge of the Black Swamp, and historically the Black Swamp was drained through direct action of the General Assembly, and that's how the whole area became inhabitable up where I live. And so it's not unprecedented for the Ohio legislature to take an active role in trying to mitigate problems with runoff water and drainage issues.
Back to some other legislative items that you've been working on since you've been down here. There's no secret that the budget is really one of the main things that state legislators work on, and this was a particularly difficult budget in 2011, preparing for the next fiscal year. Tell us what the Republican caucus and you did as far as the budget is concerned.
Well, it's a daunting task. I got in here in February, and we were faced with an $8.2 billion budget deficit, which is unprecedented in the state of Ohio. It was a historical amount. That's not a good way to make history, by the way.
That's right.
And but it was large, and it was people thought that really it couldn't be closed. They thought that it could not be done. I know the state of Florida had a $75 million budget or $75 billion budget, and they had to cut $1.8 billion, and they struggled to do that. We have a $56 billion budget, and we cut $8.2 billion out of it.
Just under 20%, right?
Which is remarkable, absolutely remarkable feat. We did it by shrinking government. We cut $1.8 billion out of the state agencies. We had the state auditor's office come and see how the state agencies could behave more efficiently, could be more productive with less money. And so, in addition to that, we had to tackle a number of other reforms. You can't make that kind of budget work without undertaking significant changes in the way you do things. And so we had to undertake some criminal justice reform over the last 12 months. We reformed the way that, or changed the way that we bid out construction projects in the state of Ohio that will help people save money. We've been able to bend the future and current cost of the Medicaid system, in particular by allowing seniors to be able to stay in their homes longer instead of having to go to a nursing home facility. So that budget was not just a financial document. It had a series of reforms in it that I think we're very proud of.
In addition to the state budget, there's another bill that passed shortly before that, right after you arrived, dealing with performance audits for state agencies. Why did you think that bill was necessary?
Well, actually, I've got a bit of a background in that. I worked for Ernst & Young previously. I'm from Findlay, Ohio, but worked for Ernst & Young down in Atlanta, Georgia, doing performance audits, this type of performance enhancement for corporations. Matter of fact, I went to Singapore and Hong Kong and worked in London and Mexico City. By the way, no place is as great as coming back to my home in Findlay and Hancock County and Hardin County. But I do have some experience in that, and I thought it was great that the Auditor of State Office has that capability to come in and say, how can we make processes, how can we make technology better for the state agencies, how can we make it more efficient, how can we increase productivity, and that's what they're doing. And I think that's a tribute to the State Auditor's Office.
In addition to making government more efficient and focusing on jobs, it seems by many that this legislature has also been focused on a number of other issues at the same time, concurrently. One of the issues that made national attention this year was the pro-life debate, specifically as it pertains to the heartbeat bill.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about the bill, where you stand on it, and what your thoughts have been on this entire process.
Right. Well, it's a great bill. I was a co-sponsor. It was passed out of the House, and I mean, it's a fairly simple bill. It protects babies as soon as their heartbeat is detected. So as soon as their heartbeat is detected, it protects children in the womb. And we also passed a couple of other pieces of pro-life legislation. One was to prevent abortions after the 20th week of pregnancy. And in addition to that, in addition to another piece, kind of social aspect bill that we passed was a bill to allow people to protect their Second Amendment rights, to allow them to carry a firearm, concealed carry firearm, in eating establishments that serve liquor. And so we're protecting people's Second Amendment rights to bear arms, as well as tackling the pro-life issues.
If you had to describe to your constituents what a typical day was, if there is such a thing, what would you say to them?
A typical day, I think, is filled with meetings. It's remarkable to me still the breadth of the public policy that we deal with at the state of Ohio. Everything from workman's comp to the pension systems to the liquor control to economic development to the budget, the criminal justice. It's absolutely immense, the number of topics, and so you're constantly meeting with experts and trying to understand what the key performance drivers are for certain pieces of public policy. It's filled with meetings, and then when I'm at home in my district, which is the majority of the time, again, it's filled with meetings with constituents, with people that are concerned about certain pieces of public policy, listening to their thoughts, and trying to in the particular case of the economy, trying to make improvements to kind of our area and make sure that public policy works for the state of Ohio.
You've touched on a lot of great legislative things that you've worked on in this General Assembly so far, and one that we didn't talk about was technology in our universities. What did you want to offer on that topic?
Well, that's an interesting thing. I went to school in Duke University, and Duke is part of the Research Triangle Park in North Carolina, and they have been very successful at taking the basic research dollars that are spent mostly by the National Institute of Health at the University of North Carolina, at Duke University, and at NC State. And they take those dollars and the basic research that's done, and they are able to spin out technologies that form new companies and create jobs there in that area, because of that basic research that's being done. Because ultimately, that basic research is solving fundamental human problems and creating new technologies. And I think it'd be great if we were able to get the same productivity out of our university system in terms of being able to commercialize new technologies. And a large portion of that and the ability to do that is how you structure the intellectual property platforms. Typically in a university setting, it's all about collaboration. You want to share ideas with other people that are working on the same topics. I mean, there's a little bit of competition in that, people are trying to publish and they're trying to get their ideas to the top, or they're trying to be the first to solve a significant science problem or humanities problem. But in the private sector, they really want that intellectual property protected. And so we've got to come up with a set of metrics, a set of processes, a set of rules at the state level to facilitate getting that technology and the problems that they're solving, the new technology, and getting it out of the university system in a way that companies can kind of use that as a platform for new products or new companies themselves. So I think that there's a great potential for us to do that as a state.
Sure.
We've got some very, very bright people here that are solving remarkable problems. So.
Definitely. Well, Representative, thank you for taking the time once again to join us, and a new dad once again.
Thank you.
That's very exciting. And we have your contact information on the screen for your constituents if they should need to get in touch with you. And hopefully you'll come back maybe in 6 months or so, and we'll see what the latest update is for your district.
That'd be great. Thank you for having me.
Very good. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you again here on the next edition of Ohio in Focus, the program that brings state government to you. Thanks again for being with us today.